Sometimes the biggest stories about how our towns actually work are hiding in plain sight. Today, we're diving into a dispute that, on the surface, seems pretty simple. It's just about a business sign. But this case, wow, it reveals a ton about local government, zoning rules, and what happens when things just don't go according to plan.
Our story really kicks off with an official notice from Newtown Township, sent to a local business. Now, this isn't just some piece of junk mail. This is a zoning violation notice. It's a formal declaration that a rule has been broken. And for any business, getting a letter like this can mean fines, legal fees, and just a massive headache. And it's a fair question, right? I mean, it's just a sign. But as we're about to find out, this one single sign manages to break multiple rules. And the reason why? Well, that story goes back years.
So, to really get how we got here, let's start with the violation itself. What did the town say was wrong? Okay, so here are the basics. On April 29th, 2025, the Newtown Athletic Club, you might know it as the NAC, a really well-known local gym, got officially cited for this big sign on their building. The town zoning officer basically put them on notice.
Here's the sign we're talking about, and the heart of the problem is really a 1-2 punch. According to the Township, first, it was put up without the right permits. And second, and this is even more important, it broke the rules of a legal agreement the club had already made with the town zoning hearing board a while back.
Now, before we go any further, we have to understand this term, a zoning ordinance. The easiest way to think of it is as the official rule book for a town. It dictates everything, what you can build, where you can build it, and what it can look like, right down to the size of your signs.
So what specific rules from that rule book did this sign actually break? Well, as the official documents show, it wasn't just one little thing.
The violation notice lays out 3 clear problems. First, its location. It's way too close to the Newtown Bypass. Second, the number of signs. The property already had as many as it was allowed. And third, the size. And folks, this is the big one. According to the rules, the biggest a sign like this can be is 20 square feet. Okay? To picture that, think of something that's maybe 4 feet by 5 feet. Just keep that number 20 in your head for a second. Now look at the actual size of the NAC sign. It's over 31 square feet. That's not just a little bit over the line. It's more than 50% larger than the ordinance allows, so you can see why this set off some alarm bells. Which leads to the really obvious question here. I mean, this isn't some fly-by-night operation that doesn't know the rules. So how on earth did they end up with a sign that's too big, in the wrong spot, and on top of already having too many signs? Well, to get the answer, we have to look to the past.
Yeah, the answer here is not simple at all. This is not a new issue. In fact, the whole story of signs on this property goes back more than a decade. It's complicated. Let's just walk through the timeline here. Way back in 2014, the club got a big, complex permission slip for a whole bunch of signs. Then they got another one in 2019. Around that same time, this new NAC sign went up. And apparently it all just flew under the radar until that violation notice in 2025. The key thing here is, there was a plan, but it looks like that plan wasn't followed.
And here it is. This is the club's main explanation, and it's pulled directly from their legal application. They're claiming it was a mistake. They say the sign was inadvertently installed in the wrong location, that it was supposed to face Penn's Trail, like the 2014 agreement said, but it ended up facing the bypass instead. And you can see it pretty clearly here. On the left is a version of the site plan from that original agreement. On the right is the sign as it stands today. The club's entire case really hinges on this idea that putting the sign where you see it now was just an error, a simple mix-up during construction. Okay, so given this whole backstory and their claim that this was all just one big mistake, what exactly is the club asking the township to do about it now?
They're not just asking for forgiveness. What they want is for the zoning board to essentially go back in a time machine, legally speaking, and change that original 2014 decision. To make the current sign legal, they need 3 brand new exceptions to the rules. And that brings us to our other key term, a zoning variance. This is super important. A variance doesn't change the town's rulebook for everyone. It's more like a special one-time permission slip for one single property to break one specific rule. And trust me, they are not supposed to be easy to get. And to get a variance, you have to make a strong legal case for it. So let's take a look at the arguments the NAC is actually presenting to the board.
These are the kind of standard legal arguments you have to make for a variance. The club is claiming that letting the sign stay put won't hurt the neighborhood's character, it won't hurt property values, and it won't be bad for the public. They're also arguing that this request is the smallest possible change needed to fix the problem that their inadvertent mistake created.
Ultimately, all of these arguments, all the documents, the history, it all lands in front of one group, the Township's Zoning Hearing Board. These are citizen volunteers who basically act as judges in cases exactly like this one. So what happens now? Well, the process is actually very clear. A public hearing is scheduled for November 6th. At that meeting, the board will hear from the club's lawyer, maybe from the township side too. And after weighing all the evidence, they'll cast a vote. And the outcome is simple. Either approve the variances and let the sign stay, or deny them. So let's put you in their shoes for a minute. You've seen all of this, the rules, the history, the claim that it was all just a mistake. What would you do? Do you grant the exception, or do you enforce the rulebook exactly as it's written? And this really is the fundamental question at the heart of this case, and so many others just like it in towns everywhere. It's a classic conflict between being flexible and being fair. How much should the rules bend for a mistake, even a big one? And at what point does making an exception for one person create an unfair situation for everyone else? It's a really tough call, and it's one the board is going to have to make.